Hi, Sarah Cowgill here, along with Andrew Moran, Kelly Ballard, Dave Patterson, and Graham Noble. And this is the Conservative Five, Liberty Nation's online TV news program. On today's episode, America, Fender Bender or total loss? The panel discusses the wildest of claims and curious climate calamity causes. And although hard to imagine it happening again, we will discuss Biden and Harris in the 2024 winning ticket. You are joking, right? A quick pivot to the latest Elon Musk moves and motives in X Marks the Spot, and then back to presidential Trivial Pursuit in Just for Fun, Volume 38. All this and more coming up on this edition of the Conservative Five. It's all your fault. When the earth self-combusts, which is any day now, and burning tides wash poached sea creatures up on the receding shoreline, well, except for where the Obama's mansion is located, it's because you voted for Trump. Somehow, Hillary Clinton got an idea stuck in her head that is ridiculous at best, tweeting recently, quote, hot enough for you? Thank a MAGA Republican, unquote. Does Hillary know it's summer right now, Graham?
Well, it's hard to imagine what's going through Hillary Clinton's head at any one time, quite honestly, if anything at all. But this tweet that she put out, and as you said, it kind of blamed MAGA Republicans apparently for it being hot outside. And the tweet contained a reference to the fact that Republicans in Congress opposed the $739 billion Inflation Reduction Act. Which has very little to do with inflation because it was mostly packed full of measures that will allegedly reduce climate change. But the connection to the two things is unclear. I mean, how Republican opposition to a bill that was signed into law anyway made it extra hot outside is a bit of a puzzle. But let's look at the numbers. The US is spending billions of dollars on climate change. The Government Accountability Office estimates that in the 15 years between 1993 and 2008, we spent more than $154 billion to fight climate change. We've spent billions more since, but according to the climate activists and the media, the crisis is getting worse almost by the day. Meanwhile, not a single one of the catastrophic predictions these people have been making since the 1970s has come to pass. The fight against climate change really is a huge money maker, and it also allows governments to exert more and more control through regulation over businesses and over private citizens, in fact, over every aspect of life. So it's never going to go away. This is going to be one of those permanent crises. There will never be a time when world leaders say, okay, we've resolved this and we've saved the planet. It's just going to go on and on and on forever. And, it's stupid and it's scientifically unsound.
Tell us what you really think. Hey, Dave, do you remember, I think it was 1979 where there was a big 60 Minutes special or something on the next coming ice age that was right around the corner. Do you remember that Star Trek guy doing that? Leonard Nimoy?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a boutique industry that has grown to being billions, where any person that has a PhD by his name, and that's not to disparage all PhDs, just the dumb ones, but they say, there's going to be one crisis or another. Either it's going to be global warming. Well, it's not actually warming, so we're going to call it climate change, or nuclear winter, or, the new ice age. The fact is that over eons, we have had cycles of both cold and hot. And yet, the planet's still here, and there are portions that are actually green.
Well, actually, it's not called global warming anymore or climate change. I think it was today or yesterday, UN Secretary Antonio Guterres, he said, quote, the era of global warming has ended. The era of global boiling has arrived. So that's the new part of vernacular you got to start learning, everybody.
We're boiling now? Are we boiling?
Of course he did.
Well, I can tell you what's causing climate change if anybody really wants to know. It's big cities, because that's where your heat islands are. And in Phoenix, who's crying about it being 120 degrees for 4 days straight, well, 100 years ago, it wasn't 120 degrees for 4 days straight because there's no damn concrete. There were no buildings. There was no glass. And it's like, hello, this is what you guys are doing down there. You're depleting the water tables and you're building high rises. I don't know.
That is a very valid point, what you mentioned. But even then, that is not contributing to a rise in global temperatures. That's a localized thing. And it's cities. You've got these concrete jungles. You've got high-rise buildings. They are all reflecting the heat. They are basically like they're like toaster ovens, really. And all the people who complain about global warming actually live inside these toaster ovens. But all in all, that even the cities are not, they're not making the temperature of the earth go up at all. And we know that because the data tells us that. I don't think the median global temperature has changed at all. Kelly said it's changed like 1% in the last so many years, 100 years or whatever. But actually, they say that in the last, I think it's in the last like 20 or 30 years or something, the global temperature has not changed at all.
I think it's worth pointing out, though, on what Graham is saying, with all this data that we have, and some of the data is just completely fictitious, or people are making up studies. All of this data that they're employing and using as justification is leading to bad public policy decisions. Graham says that the U.S. spent $150 billion on climate change over a 15-year period, but the U.S. is also spending billions more on other countries. They're shipping off all these dollars to, let's say, Indonesia to fight climate change, or the U.S. government wants to regulate gas stoves and water heaters and kitchen appliances, even though, as I reported recently, gas stoves contributed to 0.1% of emissions, 0.01% of emissions during the pandemic. So all these numbers are just being either fudged or misleading, and then later on we find out, this wasn't really accurate, but no one's going to be punished for these bad public policy pursuits.
Well, I mean, nobody. I can't go back to the Biden administration here right now, but Kelly, are people gluing themselves to the streets up there where you live, where it's never warm, ever warm there? And, all of this hysteria is ridiculous. And people making claims like Hillary Clinton made just blows my mind, that people don't look at her and go, you're a moron. You can't blame that on somebody's vote. It's 2016.
It has been getting warmer summers here. Most places don't have air conditioning, and now they're starting to make it a requirement because sometimes Seattle's getting over 100, which is unheard of here. But the point I want to make is the globe has been changing for thousands and thousands of years. I mean, if you want to talk the heat index or how hot it was, 1913, I think it is, in Death Valley hit the record at 134 degrees. That's in California. So this is nothing new. I mean, hot, cold, that's the way the earth rolls.
Who was that Minnesota congresswoman recently who said that the U.S. broke a 120,000-year-old heat record? Is that Muslim lady from Minnesota? She said she broke that record. But what Sarah said about hysteria, but who can you blame for this hysteria? The media. I don't know if you guys remember a couple of years ago, a Project Veritas undercover reporter spoke to a CNN producer, and he said that once the pandemic's over, the media is going to go hysterical over climate change. They're going to push that. They're going to push the temperatures, and you see this. I mean, you look at BBC, for example. There was a side-by-side comparison between a recent weather forecast and 2017 forecast, and it showed that in 2017 they had green colors on maps when it was 22 degrees or 23 degrees, which is about mid 70s for you Fahrenheit people, and now they have a red map for things that are 22 degrees. So it's the media that's peddling this and pushing this, and people make people so depressed and think life's going to be over soon. So blame the press.
For those of you who are impressed with statistics, and I know that Andrew is, in Knoxville, over a 10-day period, 9 days of those 10, I call that 90% where I come from, the days were actually colder than they were last year. So take that.
Put it in your climate pipe and smoke it.
Can I say a story quick? Can I catch a quick story? The other day, I was listening to an old I was listening to old 1948 radio broadcast, and it was in January, February. And the reporter at the time, he was talking about how, the scientists he's spoken to say that this is the new normal. You're going to have these deadly winters of, 40 feet of snow and frigid temperatures. You're going to have cooler summers. And then, of course, 30 years later, that's completely changed. So it seems like all climate change is, and all the climate policy is something about grifting. They're all grifters who just want to take more taxpayer dollars and make everyone just crazy.
And also it's something to campaign on. That's another thing. It's just like gun control. It's like systemic racism. It's all of that. If you'll notice, these things all have one thing in common, and that is that they are unsolvable problems. They will always be crying about systemic racism. They're always going to be crying about gun crime. They're always going to be crying about climate change. And it is so easy for them to continually move the goalposts. And whatever you do, however much money they throw at it, however many laws they pass, they're never going to say, okay, we've done enough now. We solved that problem. No, they'll simply just move the goalposts and say, oh, but now we need to do more.
I think that leaving you with this is really important, that in the early 1960s, Hillary Rodham was a Goldwater girl, and she was a much nicer person.
Yeah, it's hot. It's summer, and soon it will be crisp and cool and eventually colder than a slushie. It's not so much climate change as the change of seasons. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, panel. Joe Biden keeps dozing off, tipping over and looking for his invisible friends. Kamala Harris just keeps making up whoppers to appease whatever audience she's talking to. It's embarrassing to everyone, it seems, but them. And yet, it appears they are going to run together again. Harris is out giggling her way through the whistle stops. Joe's back in the basement. What's the latest on Kamala and Joe and the lies they tell, Dave?
Well, the latest dust up is Florida's history education program. Now, that's not to suggest that Kamala Harris in any way will push for more education, but the Fox News calls it, a cycle of misinformation. If you take the 10,000-foot level of of what's going on, effectively what Kamala Harris has said is that this new Florida history program teaches that slavery benefited the slaves. It does not say that. What it does say is that slavery, in some instances, developed useful skills that were of some benefit. And that curriculum, I might add, was co-authored by Dr. William Allen, a Black American and a descendant of slavery. And his assessment was that Kamala is a liar. And but golly, what a newsflash! I mean, what
the presses?
Yes, well, actually, the Vice President's Clown Act, the lying notwithstanding, I see it as kind of dangerous. I mean, she's the borders are looking for root causes, not root solutions. And she did an address not long after the Biden administration came into office. She went to Vandenberg Space Force Base to deliver a speech. And her basic theme was, space is important because there's so much of it. And
Gotta love her.
But at the same time, she said that the United States is no longer going to participate in anti-satellite research because Russia and China are doing an excellent job of putting enough debris in space, and so we're not going to do that. Never mind the fact that they're developing and perfecting their anti-satellite capability while we aren't. So I like to think of Kamala as, Captain Obvious's lesser known, less savvy younger sister, Cackling Kamala.
Hey, that's a good one. I like that one. Cackling Kamala. I like that one.
Oh, Kelly looks like she wants to chat. Kelly, come on, tell us what you think of this fabulous ticket and what they're going to run on this time.
I don't even know what to say. I mean, it reminds me of some Jim Carrey movies, Dumb and Dumber. I don't know.
Ouch.
All I
Buzzing.
Graham, help Kelly out here. She seems to be at a loss for words
I'm
that she
befuddled.
can use in public.
I did like Dave's Captain Obvious reference, because it was just maybe about a week ago, or maybe sometime in the last 10 days. Kamala was giving a speech somewhere, and she was talking about public transportation, and she made an astounding insightful comment when she said, basically, this is not an exact quote, but it's a paraphrase. She said that really what it all comes down to is that, public transportation is about getting people from one place to another.
Really? I don't get that. I don't see that.
I wish I had the exact quote, but that's basically what she said.
So
She
I
said,
mean, what's the biggest lie? I mean, we just go around the table here. What's the biggest lie or most ridiculous lie you think this dynamic duo has told since they came on the scene together?
I think what stands out most above all the other lies, what stands out most is this constant narrative that this administration has in fact created the strongest economy we've ever had. And they keep, and I'm sure, Andrew could probably go on for weeks about this, but that's what they've been saying. They've been saying it the whole time, that apparently, and Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, continues to repeat this. And they say it over and over again, that in fact, right now, they have built the strongest economy the United States has ever seen. And that, to me, has got to be the biggest of all the lies.
I thought it was going to be Corn Pop. I thought it was going to be,
he was a bad dude.
The rival gangs that, Joe had to talk down once in his lifetime, or the smoking pot in college and listening to Tupac.
Well, you can go on.
Those are my biggest ones. Gosh, and you guys all
Joe Biden, he was a truck driver.
And economy. Okay, Andrew.
Well,
tell Graham he's wrong.
I want to talk about something completely different. Let's talk about the significance of the passage of time. When you think about it, there's great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do and lay the wires. And there is such great significance to the passage of time when you think about a day in the life of our children. And that's an exact quote from Kamala Harris, if you guys don't know.
Yeah.
I agree completely with Graham that those claims about the greatest economy, and then it's been awful. Real wage growth only finally turned positive now. You had 9.1% inflation. You have skyrocketing deficits and debt. So no, this isn't a strong economy.
But why do people believe it? Because everybody's struggling. How do they believe that this is the best economy ever? And they will, because they'll vote for these yahoos. What's going on here?
If you look at some of the polling data, you see that most Republicans think the U.S. is already in a recession. But what's more interesting about some of the poll, I think it was a YouGov Economist poll, and it showed that a third of Democrats think the U.S. is already in a recession. So I think that's worth pointing out. And one more thing, too, before I defer to Ms. Ballard to add to this. I've never seen the show, but I've seen clips on the Twitterverse, and it compares Kamala Harris to the character Selena Meyer. And she was played by the lovely Julia Louis-Dreyfus in a show called VP. And what they say are completely identical. The way Meyer speaks is the exact same way Kamala Harris talks.
We got to take this stuff seriously as you are, because you have been forced to have to take it seriously.
Obesity is a serious disease, and it needs to be taken seriously.
You need to get to go and need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work and get home.
I hope that clarifies the issue, and this can be the last word on those words.
Certain issues are just settled.
But yeah, I find that absolutely astounding. And what I find also astounding is that how come vice presidents are not the brightest of people? Is it because the president wants to look better than the VP? I mean, you had Mr. Potato with an E, Dan Quayle. You had Mr. I invented the internet, Al Gore. You had Darth Vader, Dick Cheney, and now we have then you had Mr. We ended cancer, Joe Biden. So I don't know what's up with these vice presidents? You guys tell me. Dave is a scholar on this, so maybe Dave can.
I'll tell you, there have been fairly decent vice presidents. George H.W. Bush was a pretty good vice president, and Ronald Reagan gave him responsibilities, and he carried them out, and without much fanfare, but nonetheless. And but it just seems to me that the biggest lie that has been injurious to the greatest number of people was the lie that said, we did a great job getting out of Afghanistan. You got to be joking me. The biggest catastrophic, it exceeds the concept of debacle. And yet these clowns continue to maintain great job.
How many hours did it take, Dave, for the Taliban to be back in power?
About 13. I mean, they did have to bust some people in from the the farmland in order to take over. But it's just,
if you want to talk about lies, though, just Joe Biden the other day, he was asked about the whole Afghanistan and that report that came out recently, and he said, read the report. It said that Al-Qaeda wouldn't be there anymore and the Taliban would help. And that turned out to be completely bogus because Al-Qaeda is actually helping the Taliban now. So even that in itself is a lie, And then I inadvertently answered Sarah's earlier question about some of the biggest lies that the Biden administration has said. It just happened the other day. Biden said, quote, "We ended cancer as we know it." So there you go. So that's probably the biggest whopper of them all.
Kelly, I'm going to give you almost the last word. Well,
anyone who knows me knows it's about immigration. And I think that the administration has lied so much about illegal immigration and the problem we have over there. And what the press secretary just said recently, that Joe Biden, he's been to the border during his administration. No one knows of that. Where is that? They're not really doing anything, even though they say they are. They say they're not working on open borders, but obviously,
I think you can all, back me up on this. It's because they have cover from the media. Whatever the media says, they will reproduce that and clip it and make sure it sounds normal on their evening broadcasts. And it doesn't necessarily mean it happens that way. Dave, you had something going on before I interrupted you. What was you talking about?
Well, I think that what you all have said is, we can talk about Kamala and the Biden administration and the gaffes, until we're blue in the face. But with the curing of cancer, oncologists everywhere are looking for jobs.
Well, that's going to add to the problem in the overall economy, I think. Oh, Lord, is this the dream team of 2024? Lord, help us all. God save the Queen, you dog-faced pony soldiers. Thanks, panel. It's what Elon Musk calls a digital town square, a multi-platform, not just that 140 characters to tweet anymore, hence the rebrand from Twitter to X. It's ironic how one letter is so complex. For those who use online platforms to shop, bank, lend your own personal expertise on climate change and political candidate fatal flaws, it might seem like the logical next step, right? In our topics meeting, you told us that Musk's goals are beyond dangerous, Andrew. So now the floor is yours.
Well, before I go into a diatribe, I just would like to say if there's one Twitter account you must follow, it's our legal affairs editor, Scott Cosenza, and his podcast Uprising. That's the Twitter handle, podcast Uprising.
Yes,
you get great commentary. He's just incredible. So go to the beginning of this. So Elon Musk, he recently changed the name and the logo of Twitter to X, and get this, an X logo. So there's so many things that need to be ironed out. What do tweets what do you call them now? If you go to analytics dashboard, you still see the old Twitter infrastructure. A lot of people are complaining about this. It doesn't bother me at all. What I am concerned about, and I've mentioned about this on this program in passing before and another media and in my articles, is the future of this platform. Now, a year ago when he was buying up Twitter, he made it clear that he wanted to turn it into like WeChat over in China. Now, WeChat, you can do pretty much everything you want. You can continue the social media, but you also can buy stuff, you can make bill payments, you can transfer money, and that's what Musk wants to do with this new X. He wants to turn into as you called it, Sarah, a multi-platform. Now, this is dangerous. Imagine you have all your information, your tweets, your financial data, your private information, your images like Instagram, all centralized into a single location. That's ripe for disaster. And, that would be a perfect complement for law enforcement and the Fed and the governments to just crack down and surveil you and do everything they want to you. So that's my fear of the future of X.
Graham, are you on X?
No, I'm not. I was actually permanently suspended from Twitter before it was cool to be permanently suspended from Twitter.
Didn't they let you back on?
No, they never let me back on. They never.
Oh, well,
I mean,
you might have something fun to say.
I tried a couple of times. I've even well, this is a whole other subject, but I've even thought about suing them, because even though they won't let me use the platform, they still count me as a user. I'm sure they're doing that to all the other people who they suspended, and therefore by doing so, they are artificially inflating the value of the company, because of course the value of the company is based on how many users they have. Well, I'm not a user, but they still say I have. So to be honest, I shouldn't comment about ongoing legal matters, but they haven't actually started yet. But I am actually truly exploring the possibility of suing Twitter over that.
If there's an attorney out there watching, please help Graham out of this.
Yeah, right.
He found himself in for being a little rowdy.
But here's the thing about it is that I agree. The problem is, and Andrew nailed it, and that is this centralization of your information, and that's that's not a good thing. And I think people should very much consider, if they're doing a lot of stuff online, and I do a lot of stuff online, I buy stuff online. I do kind of a little bit use social media, but not a great deal. And, I book, I book hotels online, I book, trips online, all that kind of stuff. I think people should consider the fact that it would behoove them to continue to use a diverse array of platforms rather than putting all their digital eggs in one basket.
Feeling that egg in a basket thing was going to happen. All right, Dave.
Well, I think from a national security point of view, I think it's a bad idea. I mean, we exist as a country because, although they're diminishing in other ways, we exist as a country because we have elevated the idea of personal freedoms to a point where we all expect to do that. And we have that expectation with these kinds of catch-all media. Every time somebody says, I can manipulate your data, I can manipulate your banking, I can pick your favorite, you give away some of your personal freedoms. We need to be able to say, no, I don't want to do that. And yes, I want to do that. And I think that when you have these just huge data collections, you start to chip away at that opportunity.
But does anyone really care, though? I mean, Sarah and I, we discussed this earlier this week offline, and people are just absolutely willing to give up their data if they can access a free service. Facebook, probably one of the biggest data collectors on the planet, well, in the United States anyway. And people just are willing to do it. TikTok is a great surveillance tool. You sign up and you agree that the company can access your camera on your phone, and this is widely known, and people just still sign up for TikTok anyway. Hundreds of millions of users. So when you talk about freedom to do it, people are just willingly saying, yeah, here, take my data as long as I can watch these lunatics on TikTok do these latest crazy things of being NPCs.
Well, you got to know it's serious when it's the biggest punishment a parent can inflict on a child: take their phone away for a day. People are so addicted to their devices that it doesn't matter. They want something easy. They get scammed on Facebook ads or all sorts of different kinds of freebie things coming out of China. people get scammed easy, and they just want it to be easy. They want it to be attractive and easy. And I don't know, Kelly, what do you think?
That's what I was going for. It's all about convenience. Musk is making it a one-stop shop for everything you need, whatever you want. It's right here, and I've got control of it all. And I think that's very dangerous, like everyone else is saying. Again, with the proverbial, don't put all your eggs in one basket, even though it's more convenient. You get more loss that way. Correct.
And he's also monetizing usage as well, because now if you enroll in one of its programs and you tweet, and that thing gets all this traction and replies and likes and retweets, and he can insert ads in between the dialogue, you're also being incentivized to use a platform and make money that way. So that's going to fuel the addiction that people already have to Twitter, and is go for the lowest hanging fruit of dialogue, as opposed to the Liberty Nation content that's published on the website, which is in depth and detailed and wonderful.
Why does anybody need anything more than 140 characters in a message? Otherwise, it's just stupid. I mean, if you want to read Andrew Moran, you don't need to go to Twitter. I mean, you might click on a link there, but if you want to read Andrew Moran and be an economic genius in an hour and a half, then you go to libertynation.com. If you want to read Graham, same thing, or Dave, and have the bejesus scared out of you that we have no national security anymore. Or, Kelly talking about immigration. There's ways to do that. You don't need 140 characters for more, your topic. Hey, go Cubs, go.
Okay, but here's the thing though. This is how he does it. So now on Twitter, it's expanded beyond 140 characters or even 280 characters. You have, I think it's now 10,000 characters or 20,000 characters. So you can post long form content on that website. You can post long form video content. That's, I think the minimum is, I think the maximum is 2 hours if you're a Twitter Blue subscriber. So if you add that long form content and you complement it with other things of buying stuff or sending payments, the hours you're going to log into Twitter is going to be astronomical. So this bet that Elon Musk had of buying the company for $44 billion, it's inevitably going to grow, and he's going to make a nice return on his investment just based on if he's able to succeed in growing Twitter or growing X into just this behemoth like WeChat in China.
So it's just another level of indoctrination into one world order. Is that what you're trying to get to the point there, Andrew?
I'm not using that language of indoctrination, one word, just because I want Elon Musk to like me and like Liberty Nation. So I will not throw stones.
Andrew, sure he liked you. Dave, what you got? Graham's.
Well, I think that it goes to kind of the same mantra that they use quite often in the Pentagon, and that is, I need, I can, I should, I will. And that's kind of the what technology is all about. Because I need something and I can do it, then I should do it and I will do it. But it also brings up the famous quotation by John Wayne, who said, "Life is tough. It's tougher when you're stupid."
I think you got that slightly wrong, Dave. I mean, I know you actually worked in the Pentagon, but I think actually the correct quote in terms of the Department of Defense is, I need, I can, I should, I will fill in an acquisition form.
That was good.
That's pretty close.
Andrew just finally took Dave's place and scaring us to death. So stay in the know, America. We'll keep Andrew on the case. Thanks, panel. Kelly and I finally figured out how to get on the trivia scoreboard. And that's just to sign it to Andrew, our economic comic, and take him out of the field in just for fun. This week, we're back with a random presidential trivia game. Take it away, Mr. Moran.
Hello and welcome to another big show for Just for Fun Trivia. I am your host, Andrew Moran, who always looks good enough to bury. First, let's meet the contestants before we get this started. First, we have Miss Sarah Cowgill. You may know her as the rough, tough, and gruff lady of Liberty Nation, but you also don't know that she enjoys getting all dolled up, taking long walks on the beach, and listening to Kenny G. The futures market is pricing in a 60% chance of Miss Calgo winning today's trivia. Next, she's ballin', she's clobbering, she's balling, clobbering Kelly Ballard. She might hail from Seattle. We all know that she hails from our hearts. Next, in a world where there aren't many men with testosterone, we have the man, the myth, the legend. Rumor has it that when he's contested at a court appointment, the judge did not dare to show up, and even the chair stood up. He is none other than Mr. Graham Noble. Finally, you may know him as a dashing young fellow whose sartorial choice rivals that of White House official John Kirby or Liberty Nation legal affairs editor Scott Cosenza. But don't let this jovial and carefree attitude fool you. He has a grizzly bear rug in his home. The bear is alive, but it is too frightened to move. His name is Dashin' Dave Patterson. Now on to trivia, and please only answer after the multiple choice answers have been read. So, question number 1. What was former President Richard Nixon's middle name? Was it A, Joe, B, Andrew, C, Milhouse, or D, Michael?
C.
Millhouse.
Millhouse.
So Dave
I
gets
nodded.
one.
I got my nod in before Dave blurted it out. Dave, your head's getting really close and freaking me out.
I couldn't hear your nod.
Oh, snap.
I will be watching. Oh, hey, Nolan. Hi, Nolan.
Okay. Question number 2. This failed gubernatorial candidate lashed out at reporters at the Beverly Hilton Hotel, saying, quote, "You don't have blank to kick around anymore because, gentlemen, this is my last press conference." Was it A, Nelson Rockefeller, B, Richard Nixon, C, George H.W. Bush, or D, Thomas Dewey?
B.
You don't have Nixon to kick around anymore. Because, gentlemen, this is my last press conference.
Dave with 2. Okay, question number 3. In the 2016 presidential race, this presidential candidate repeated the same lines 4 times in a single primary debate. He said, quote, "Let's dispel once and for all with this fiction that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's tearing this country apart." Was it A, Donald Trump,
Come on.
B, Jeb Bush, C, Rand Paul, or D, Marco Rubio?
Hey,
I'm sorry, what Dave?
well, whoever Donald Trump lover was.
Wrong.
No, I think it was C. I think it was Rand Paul.
And I'd go for D.
And this notion that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing is just not
There
true.
it is.
He knows exactly
There it is.
what he's
The memorized 25-second speech.
Well, that's
Marco
Graham
Rubio.
gets one. It is Marco Rubio. So good job, Mark. Graham.
Well, you threw me off with a stupid accent, Andrew. That's not fair.
That's too bad. We're so sorry.
Question number 4. In 1926, then President Calvin Coolidge had a pet named Rebecca in the White House. What animal was it? A, a dog, B, a bird, C, a raccoon, or D, a horse?
Raccoon.
B.
Hey, Kelly! Kelly gets one! Kelly gets one!
Go,
Yes!
Kelly.
Kelly
Go,
got
Kelly.
it.
Good job, Kelly.
Thank you.
So-
1 out of 100. I'm on a roll.
Interesting timing, too, because a raccoon, he climbed on our balcony and destroyed our kid's sled. So that's a perfect timing for this question. And also another bit of trivia, the raccoon was supposed to be Thanksgiving dinner that was shipped from Mississippi, but his wife kept the raccoon as a pet. All right. So
Jim's not here today. Let's not disparage Jim, the critter eater.
all right, final question, number 5. This president was fond of saying bully, which was an adjective for superb or wonderful. Who said it? A, Teddy Roosevelt, B,
Yes.
James Polk, C, Jimmy Carter, or D, Grover Cleveland?
A.
Hey,
So Dave is the winner.
I got that one.
Actually, Sarah said it, but she said it out of order, and so it didn't count.
Well, regardless of that, Mr. Dashin' Dave Patterson is today's winner of trivia.
Do I get a Fox News
Dave,
coffee
we are
cup?
not inviting you next week. I'm sorry. You're not going to be on C5 for a while. You're just.
I take it back. Can I take it back? I mean, you know, I'm terribly sorry. You remember A Fish Called Wanda, where he's late, hanging upside down out of the window, and he says, "I'm terribly sorry. I apologize."
I'm really, really sorry. I apologize unreservedly.
You take it back.
I do.
I think after
you might float out in the bay when we see each other in about 6 weeks.
I think during post-production, Sarah's going to find about 4 or 5 correct answers, and she will eventually be the winner.
I mean, I'm telling you.
Well, I think the real winner
not playing anymore. I like to be the host.
The real winner today is Kelly Ballard.
Yay, Kelly!
She got the hard one.
Well, because I finally got on the board. That's why.
Well, there you go. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us today and playing along with our trivia challenge panelists, which apparently is mostly me. Thanks. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform. YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble. We're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. I'm Sarah Cowgill. Thanks for joining us today. Free thinking, free speech, libertynation.com.